Hello guys, Brad here from The Guided Investor. Welcome back to the channel for another video. And today's video is going to be a little bit different to my usual videos. If you're regular to the channel, you'll know that I like to put out regular content about informative content about how you can do more with your money. But in today's video, I thought I'd give you an insight into why I decided to become a financial advisor and a little bit of a rundown of my journey so far. So I hope you like it. For me, there was no one defining moment that made me stop and think, shit, I really need to be a financial advisor. That light bulb moment just didn't happen. And growing up, I would always sort of change my mind as to what I wanted to do, you know. At one point I wanted to be a dentist because I always said a dentist made a lot of money. Another point, I wanted to be an electronic engineer because, you know, I watched Jimmy Neutron make all this cool shit and I wanted to do it too. And as years 11 and 12 rolled around, I was still a bit undecided as to what I wanted to do, but I was leaning more towards engineering at that point. So I picked my subjects in line with the engineering pathway into university. So I'd done the advanced maths, I'd done physics, I'd done chemistry, all that fun stuff. As I progressed through years 11 and 12, you know, I found that I didn't really like physics or chemistry. Now, physics was okay, I didn't mind that, but chemistry, that was sort of my kryptonite. It was good fun when we had the Bunsen burners out and we were burning stuff for cool flames and things like that, but overall, it was a bit of it just didn't click with me. So I kind of gave up on the idea of being an engineer and I went back to the drawing board. At the time, I was also taking an economics class, which I quite enjoyed. I found the concepts were really easy to grasp, they made a lot of sense to me. And part of the enjoyment, I guess, of economics as well is we had this old Scottish economics teacher called Mr. Duncan. And he was a bit of a hoot, and every time, you know, we'd have a test, he'd tell us, don't forget to take a rubber for protection. Obviously that's a pretty shitty Scottish accent, but he was a good guy. Now I don't remember exactly when it was, but sometime throughout year 12, I switched my career path into financial planning. And I can't pinpoint the exact moment, but looking back, I think there were a few seeds throughout my childhood that were planted in order to put me down that path. The first seed came from my parents. I remember as I was growing up, my parents would always reminisce about how before they had kids and they were earning a double income, they had lots of spare cash flow and they really wanted to buy an investment property or two, but they didn't do it. And in hindsight, they look at that as one of their big regrets because obviously if you followed Perth property, you'll know that they could have made substantial money from that. But as a kid, you know, they'll tell me this story and I'd think to myself, well, when I grow up, I don't want to miss out on the same opportunity. The second seed came from my teachers through years 8 to 10. And now we're in a pretty unique school situation where the same 4 teachers followed you through all 3 years. And 2 of the 4 teachers started their own little private property syndicate with a group of their friends. They would share with us their investment ideas. So they would outline exactly what they were spending, how they were spending it, how much they're going to borrow, what profit they're going to look to make, how they're going to roll that into the next project to do it all over again for a fatter profit. And as a kid, when I sat there and watched this all unfold on the whiteboard, I thought it was fascinating. I fell in love with the idea of using money to make more money. So although I can't pinpoint the exact reason or the exact time that I decided to become a financial advisor, I think that these 2 seeds that were planted in me early on definitely play a role in it. So post year 12, I got the grades I needed to get into university and start studying commerce. Now I majored in financial planning and economics, and whenever someone asked me why I wanted to be a financial advisor, I'd basically just say, because you have to know money to make money. Now, while this is true, it is a very one-dimensional view of the industry. In my final year of university, I was fortunate enough to get a start in a small financial planning practice, and I worked there part-time throughout my final year of uni. And I started at the bottom. I started as an administration assistant. So not even administration, an assistant to administration. But this firm turned out to be a great opportunity for me over the long term. I still work closely with a lot of the people that I met there. I consider them both mentors and friends, so I'm very lucky that I got this start in the industry. Post completion of the studies at university, I transitioned into a paraplanning role. So for anyone who doesn't understand the financial planning industry, the paraplanner is basically the person behind the scenes that does all the technical work. So as a paraplanner, an advisor will go out and see the client, they'd come back to me, they'd give me a briefing as to what the client wants, what they're looking to do. I would go away, crunch the numbers, put together a detailed advice document, give it back to the advisor to go and present to the client. My role as a paraplanner morphed over the years, and I ended up working for a number of different advisory groups around Perth. I also went back to university to study my Master of Accounting because I figured that accounting ties in nicely with financial planning. And I transitioned from being an employee to self-employed. So what I would do is I would contract myself out on a day rate to numerous different advice groups. Being a paraplanner for numerous different advisors was a great learning curve for me. I got to see different ways that advisors delivered advice to clients, and from there I was able to cherry pick what I liked, what worked well, and what didn't. I ended up being a paraplanner for a good 5+ years, and I slowly transitioned into an advisor myself. So I got licensed as a financial advisor, and I started taking on my own clients while still using paraplanning to pay the bills. The transition from paraplanner to advisor was a very difficult one for me because as a paraplanner, I was at the top of my game. I knew all of the strategies, I knew all the technical knowledge. But when it came to being a financial planner, I needed a whole new skill set. Don't get me wrong, I still needed all the technical knowledge and skills that I had learned as a paraplanner. But what you don't learn as a paraplanner and you really need as an advisor is those soft skills. How to interact with people about money. And if you know anything about money, you'll realize that it's a very taboo subject between people. I mean, most of the time people are more comfortable talking about their sex lives than they are talking about money. So the way you approach the money conversation with people is very important. I've also come to realize that managing money is more than just a numbers game. In order to effectively manage and put together a good financial plan, you need to take into account the person's relationship with money. So sometimes the strategy that looks good on paper is not necessarily going to be the strategy that works the best in practice. Similarly, one strategy that is good for one person might not be good for another person because every single person has their own relationship to money and every single person has their own financial situation, which is unique. So transitioning from paraplanner to financial advisor was a difficult hurdle for me, but now that I'm past that initial hurdle, it's the best move that I've made. The real satisfaction in this industry comes from meeting people and working with them on an element of their life that is so important. Now, I don't believe that you need to be rich to be happy, but I do believe that you need financial security in order to live a fulfilling life. Because without financial security, there's going to be a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension in your life, and you just don't want that. And watching the advisor-client relationship grow is an interesting one. You know, when clients first come in, they're very, not standoffish, but they're very reserved as to what they do and their mannerisms and things like that. And over time, as you work with people and as you meet them more and more often and as the trust builds, people tend to loosen up, and it's almost like having a meeting with a friend. So it is a very rewarding thing to do. So I've been an advisor for over 7 years now, and needless to say, I love it. I love the personal aspect of the industry. I love the technical aspect of the industry. And one thing that has made my journey even better has been starting my own business. At the beginning of 2019, I kicked off Guided Investor, and I wanted this brand to represent my approach to financial advice. So typically when the average person thinks of a financial advisor, they think of an old dude wearing a suit, catering to rich people's investing needs. And that's just not the case, or at least it's not the case for me. First of all, financial advice isn't just for the rich. A good financial plan will be based around strategy, and investments are a tool that we use in order to implement the strategy. So some financial advice, some financial plans contain very little about investments. Some are built more around asset protection, buying your first house, tax planning, debt management, those kinds of things. Now those plans are very important, but they contain very little about investing. So financial advice isn't just for the rich. Secondly, I don't like suits. Have you ever looked at someone wearing a suit and thought, "Phew, that guy looks real comfortable wearing that suit"? It doesn't happen. And this goes back to the soft skills. And you know, I like to connect with my clients on the same level, and 99% of my clients don't come to meetings wearing a suit, and so therefore I don't feel like it's appropriate for me to wear a suit either. So Guided Investor is a brand that I built in order to appeal to the average person. I spent a lot of time putting out content, useful content, for those people that want to create a DIY financial plan. And at the end of the day, you know, not everyone wants to see a financial advisor, and that's cool too. But for those people that do want to see an advisor, I want them to know that with Guided Investor, They're going to get a tailored advice document which is built around their particular situation. And that's my journey so far. So I have a lot of plans in the pipework as to how I want to build the business and keep improving the client experience. But the exciting part about this industry is that you're always learning. You can never sit there and say that you know everything there is to know about finance, because it's a very dynamic industry. Things are always changing, and if you don't morph in order to keep up with those changes, then you're not going to remain relevant. But that's it for me today, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you did like this video, I know it was a little bit different, but if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.